Hello, hello. Does this work? Good afternoon, freshman class of 2015. My name is Justin Schoenfeld. I'm currently a fourth-year computing security student in the Golisano College of Computing and Information Sciences, and also an associate information security engineer in the Information Security Office here at RIT. If you couldn't tell already, I'll be your host for this afternoon's session on digital self-defense. Today, we have 4 panelists who will be talking to you about staying safe online and keeping your identity safe from hackers and identity thieves. So, our 4 lovely panelists today will be, is this working? Ben Woelk, our program manager in the Information Security Office. We have Jennifer Gates, the senior PC systems administrator in ITS, or Information Technology Services at RIT. Also, Mike Johansson, senior lecturer in Communication, School of Communication. And also, Joe Johnson, chief conduct officer at RIT. Now, we like to keep things interesting for this session, so we make all of our presenters do what we like to call a lightning talk. Basically, our presenters will have 18 seconds for each of their 20 slides. If you do the math, that comes out to be about 6 minutes per presenter. So to give you a taste of what 18 seconds feels like, we have a timer going down for 18 seconds. So some of our presenters here have never done this type of talk before, so you might see some sweat dripping down their faces. And there we go. So our first presenter of the evening, or afternoon, is going to be Mike Johansson.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Can you hear me? Good. We'll just wait for the slides here. I'm Mike Johansson. I teach in the School of Communication here at RIT. And while the slides are coming up, I teach advertising, public relations, and social media. And outside of RIT, I help businesses with social media. Today, I'm here to talk to you about your online presence. Before you can stay safe online, you want to make sure that everything that is online is as good as it can be about you. So let me tell you about a guy called Pete Kistler. He graduated from Syracuse University 3 years ago and was wondering why he was not getting any replies to his applications for jobs. Then he Googled himself and found there's a Pete Kistler who was a drug dealer. So when people were searching for him, they were finding a drug dealer. That's a problem. So it's not just your name that can get you in trouble, of course, online. It can be photos, unflattering photographs, unprofessional photographs, photographs that show you in an unflattering light. There's a lot of stuff that can make you look bad online. And it's important that you're aware that this stuff is out there, whether you put it there or not. So start with things to think about. Privacy settings. You're all on Facebook, I'm sure. You're probably on Snapchat, Instagram, maybe Twitter, a few other places. When was the last time you checked your privacy settings? If you haven't done it lately, at the very least on Facebook, you should go in there and check to see who's seeing what you post every time you post. Another thing to think about is your email address. You probably have multiple email addresses, and you get a pretty cool rit.edu address for coming here. But you need to have a professional address that will last beyond RIT for when you're applying for jobs and co-ops. This kind of address won't help you get a job. So what's significant about 95%? Is it a really good grade? Students who are changing majors? Employers searching for candidates? All of the above. The correct answer is C. 95% of employers are searching for candidates. It'll be 100% by the time you graduate. What will they find? So you need to think about what your digital footprint looks like. Every time you post something online, you are leaving some digital dirt. What's that going to look like to an employer when they search for you in the future? You need to be conscious of what you're posting. I know you've heard this before, but now this is serious. You're going to graduate in 4 years. Another thing to do is to claim your digital terrain. You need to think about every presence that you can possibly have online, and you want to make sure they're positive presences. You want to make sure that you have information there that is everything that's positive about you. 3 steps. Master LinkedIn first. You might have heard of LinkedIn. It is the #1 social professional network site. You want to start one now. If you don't have one, it'll be pretty thin to start with. But 3 years from now, when you're thinking about graduating, you'll be glad you did. And your experiences here can build up your LinkedIn profile. You also want to own your own domain name, yourname.com, or a version of yourname.com, because if you don't, someone else will. And it's important, again, when people search for you, that they find you, not someone else with the same name. There are plenty of tools out there to help you do this. Claim your social profiles. There's a ton of social networks out there, but the 10 or 12 biggest ones, you should own your own name on a profile, even if you're not going to use that social network. Because again, if you don't, someone else will. Use namecheck, it's on the screen, .com, to see if your name is available on other networks. Claim them now. So, once you've done all these things, what are you going to do? How are you going to differentiate yourself? Are you going to be vanilla, or are you going to be a banana split with whipped cream and cherries on top? Let me tell you, the last one, the whipped cream and cherries on top, that's what gets you a job. That's how you stand out. So how do you do that? Start with something like an infographic resume. There are plenty of free tools out there that allow you to take your resume and make it into an infographic. They're cool, they're easy to share. It helps you visualize what your strengths are, what your skills, your knowledge, your experiences. It helps an employer. Think about a social resume. There's a lot of cool free sites out there that allow you to bring all your social presences together. And again, you claim a bit of digital territory, and people can find you across all these different networks. It's a very easy thing to do, something you should be thinking about doing. Another thing to think about, if you haven't thought about already, is start a blog. You want to blog about something you're enthusiastic about, something you care about, something that's important to you. If it's related to your future career goals, great. If not, it doesn't matter. Employers are looking for people who are enthusiastic and can communicate. Why? Because when you do all of the above, you should be able to dominate page 1 of Google results. Think about it. When was the last time you did a Google search and you went beyond page 1? You better not be hoping that an employer looking for you online is going to keep searching and searching and searching. There are things that you can do to rise up and search. There are a bunch of free tools. Remember our friend Pete Kistler, not the drug dealer, the student? He started a company called Brand Yourself. I highly recommend it. It's a free tool. It helps you get links to move up that are good and move links that are not so good down. There is a couple of other sites listed there. All right, a couple of things your parents didn't tell you. You can do all of this online stuff, but how do you make yourself look good? You make sure you have to do a co-op or 2 while you're here at RIT, but you also should have a couple of other jobs. You want experiences that can flesh out that LinkedIn profile, make that resume look a little fatter. You should join clubs, professional organizations, student government, the band, any kind of activities that you can do, because employers want people who are well-rounded, who've done a lot of things, and all of this can build up in your online presence. So when you've got all this stuff together, employers are going to search for you. Remember, you control what they find. It's up to you what's out there. I hope you've taken a few things away from this. I hope the next 4 years are the best 4 years of your life. Congratulations for getting into RIT. Feel free to reach out to me with questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have Joe Johnson. Joe doesn't know this, but we actually snuck in an anonymous slide into his presentation, so we'll check out his ad-lib skills in a second.
I've done this before, and I suck at it every single time. I'm Joe Johnston. I'm the director for the Center for Student Conduct and Conflict Resolution. I'm here to tell you a little bit about how copyright law affects you as a college student, particularly when you are using the campus network. What happens is that the law states that if we're on a campus network and we do any file sharing at all, the companies who see that their files are being shared can contact us, and we have to then forward the information to you so they're aware that you are file sharing their files. And this isn't just going to be movies and songs. This is everything. This is porn. This is textbooks. There's a lot of porn sharing going on this campus right now. Not this week, but usually it's all the time. And what happens is you have these companies like the Recording Industry Association of America. They are targeting these colleges, and they're trying to say, all right, let's make sure that this file sharing stops. While we can't make those private vendors like Time Warner or Verizon share that information about who's sharing, colleges can, and they're going to send you these letters. You're going to get them from emails. It's going to be forwarded from ITS. They're going to ask you to settle. And for every song or movie or file you shared, they're going to ask you, rather than go to an attorney and have to go through a lawsuit, to pay $20 to $250 per song. Why are they doing this? Because they think that they can pressure you to do that rather than have to pay for an attorney, which is going to cost a lot more. That's a little bit scary, especially if you're sharing your entire music library. You might be sharing sometimes a lot of songs. One weekend last spring, we saw this huge increase in the amount of correspondence that we got. We received 2,000 early settlement letters. Just to give you an example, over 700 students last year received some sort of warning or settlement letter on the campus. How are they going to do it? This is going to be this like spamish email that's going to be sent to you. We receive them daily and we pass them on. Whoever shared Gone Girl earlier this week, you got totally busted. You just should know that right now. They're not going to ask us specifically for your name unless they get a subpoena. We do not get many subpoenas. We haven't gotten them in a while, but they can request them and we have to give them. You really can have up to 3 choices before going through the conduct process. The first time you're going to receive a letter from ITS that states, here's the file, stop sharing. The second time you're going to receive a letter from our office notifying you that we're aware of the incident. We were aware of the first incident too, but we're just trying to make sure that we're, be kind, not give you too many emails. The third time, if you're file sharing, you have to come to the student conduct office and the student union and explain what happened, and even if it's a warning, you're going to end up with a disciplinary record here at the college. You don't want that. That stays here for 6 or 7 years. Let me give you an example of a student, Thomas. It doesn't his real name, obviously. Last year, got caught over one weekend sharing 200 songs. Each of those songs, they were asking for $20. They want $4,000 in settlements. Over that last weekend where we had those 2,000 notices, $40,000 they were asking our IT students to pay. Last year, and it's not always $20 either. We had one, BMG I think it was, they were asking $250 per song. That no one should pay for a One Direction song ever, let alone $250. Okay, thank you. I gotta keep talking. This is what the letter's gonna look like. If you are ever worried that it's gonna be a spam email, contact our office. We're happy to make sure that you know whether or not the email is legitimate, because it does. It looks a little kind of spammy. They want you to send their information. They want you to log onto their site. One of the things that I ask you to think about is whether or not you're comfortable explaining to your parents why you might need $4,000 and also why you need $4,000 to pay off for porn that you shared. That would probably not be a good thing. And they give you all the titles, too. You guys are into some sick shit, to be honest. That's all there is to it. Here's my mystery slide. Apparently, my office is now associated with death. We do suspend students, but you're not going to get suspended for file sharing. That was a little scary. Okay, so you should also know that, because not just file sharing, but also if you're making copies of software, if you're making copies of games or movies, and you're making hard copies for your own backup, that is fine. But if you're distributing it to other things, that's going to be harder for these companies to track, but that also is illegal. You should be taking consideration of that. There are plenty of places to get online free music, free movies. Please use those services. We don't want to get anyone in trouble. And if you ever have a question, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to share this with a friend? You can contact ITS. You can contact our office. We'll make sure that we can find someone who can answer that question for you. If you have file sharing software on your computer and you don't have a reason for it, you should delete it now, because what happens is that some of these programs, especially if you're not computer really literate, they will turn themselves on every time you reboot your computer and start file sharing your library, and you don't even know what's going on. And that's one of the challenges we have. Actually, a lot of, too, if you have friends that are living off campus and they're bringing their laptops onto campus, they're doing that sharing off campus, they're not going to get into trouble. Suddenly they bring it on campus, their computer hooks up to the network and is continually file sharing off their laptop, and that's when they get in trouble. A lot of software that you might need for your majors is expensive. We realize that. Make sure you're contacting your academic departments. Make sure you're contacting the bookstore. A lot of times you get a lot of discounts because you're an RIT student. You might get a letter that says, don't remove anything off your computer. It's kind of a very legal-ish letter. You may want to consider getting legal advice. RIT cannot provide any legal advice for you. We do have a student government attorney who can give you some advice, but they're not going to represent you. Please don't end up short and handcuffed and behind bars. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I did forget to mention that at the end of this session, we will have time for Q&A, so ponder up your questions for the panelists and try to grill them if you can. Next up is Jen Gates.
Welcome to RIT. Like he said, my name is Jennifer Gates. I'm Systems Administrator for Information and Technology Services Department here at RIT. We provide service to the faculty, staff, and students on campus. We have a satellite office on the dorm side of campus called ResNet, which is where most students take their devices. Today I wanted to talk to you about keeping your mobile devices secure. We use these, we can't really live without them, right? We're calling our friends, we're calling our parents, we're buying things with them, we may even be applying for jobs online. So we need to put security first when we're talking about mobile devices. Unfortunately, developers aren't really making that any easier for us. They're not putting security first. Gartner predicts that 75% of mobile device breaches will be due to application misconfigurations and not some highly technical attack. We're also seeing that Android platform is now surpassed Windows as far as a target for malware. And in that 50%, almost 50% of mobile devices that are infected today are Android, and about almost 50% of those devices are also Windows. Leaves about 1% for other devices. We're also seeing a great increase in the types of malware, so they're finding more ways to get in, and they're more creative in what they're doing once they get in. So these apps that they're getting in, Trojan apps, are apps that appear to be legitimate apps, but they're actually doing some things behind the scenes, maybe accessing your sensitive data, like your Google Wallet, and then spyware apps that are actually tracking what you're doing on the web, or actually tracking what your phone, where your phone is located. And reports do show that iOS devices aren't as big of a target, but it doesn't mean that you're completely safe. This malicious application made it through Apple's stringent review process and actually made it to the iOS App Store. So how do you know if you're infected? Well, maybe you have some sent items that you didn't send, whether they're email or texts. Your phone bill maybe has some unexplained charges on it, or maybe your Google Wallet account. Or maybe it's something more blatant, such as this pop-up for ransomware that says you need to pay to get your files decrypted. So we're going to talk about some things you can do to reduce your risk. These best practices will really work for any device. They're not platform specific. So the first thing you want to do is be prepared, right? You want to make sure you're writing down information about your device. Write down your International Mobile Equipment Identifier, that IMEI number, or your serial number. Maybe install one of the Find My Phones apps, or set your lock screen to some helpful information. Maybe put your name and public safety's phone number, so if your phone is lost and found, it can get back to you. Register your devices at start.rit.edu. This will tie your hardware address to your username, and will also assist if your phone gets lost or stolen. If it's used on campus, public safety can work with ITS to locate it. While you're on campus, you also want to make sure you're connecting to RIT-WPA2, which is the secure wireless on campus. When you're not on campus, make sure you trust the wireless networks that you're connecting to. If you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off, and try not to pair devices in crowded areas where that traffic can be sniffed. Turn on the Ask to Join networks as well. Don't be a victim of a crime of opportunity. Don't leave your devices unattended. Set a passcode and require auto lock. Possibly encrypt your device if you have that ability, depending on the device. When talking about data, also back up your data. You want to make sure that if your device is lost or stolen, or even if it's just damaged or corrupted, you can still get your data. Don't store or transmit sensitive information such as passwords or social security numbers. If you're going to store passwords, use something that is a trusted app, such as LastPass or KeePass or something like that. Make sure you're getting your apps from trusted sites such as the Apple Store or the Amazon Store. Check the reviews. Make sure you know what it is that you're installing and what it's supposed to do. If it pops up for additional permissions, read that and see if you really want to allow that app to have access to other pieces of your device. Be conscious of what you're clicking on, what you're downloading, and what sites you go to. Be aware that phishing attempts can now come in not only through email, but you can get them through text messages or multimedia texts. Don't give your phone number out to somebody that you don't trust. I'm not going to say don't jailbreak or don't root your device because we are a technical school and I know people are going to do it. If you do, just be aware of what you're doing and be warned that you could end up letting in some stuff that you don't necessarily want to let in. Make sure you're keeping up to date with software updates, not only the operating system, but the apps on the phone as well. Vulnerabilities are found almost daily, and so you need to keep upon that and make sure you're applying them as you see them come. This is pretty much one of the most quickest ways to patch against vulnerabilities. The two top support issues that we see at RIT's ResNet are devices that are lost due to being left unattended, such as in library carols, and malicious apps or malicious links being clicked and the device getting compromised due to that, that vector. Thank you very much for listening to my lightning talk. Good luck at RIT.
All right, we made it to our last talk. Next up is my boss, Ben Woelk.
Yeah, the advantage of being the... Okay. You need to queue up the next slide. Can't get good help, so anyway, my name is Ben Woelk. I'm a program manager in the Information Security Office. I'm here today to talk to you really about 10 tips to stay safe online, or at least stay safer. I'm used to doing these in 15 seconds, so we're probably going to have some lag time, maybe lots. Okay, so what's wrong with this picture? Everything. So your credit card number's been stolen. You're going to put it in here to find out, right? Hopefully not. So the issue that we've got is that we are targeted, and we're targeted by organized crime. It isn't a case of hackers in a basement somewhere. If it is, they're being paid to do it. And the other problem is that we're all idiots. At some point or other, whether it's us up here or you down there, we can all defeat any kind of security protection, any kind of technical protection, whether deliberately or accidentally. So don't be Dave. So, question, age group that has their identity stolen the most. What do you think? Just yell out the letter for the one you think it is. Okay. Actually, more of you said C than I thought, but college students are more than 5 times more likely to suffer identity theft than the other age groups. So it's not your grandparents that are doing it. First tip, avoid stupid passwords. I really hope none of you have any of these passwords that are on this list. If you do, please change it. I know they're hard to remember, but this is a little bit ridiculous. So, how many of you? Yeah. So, what I want to talk to you about is doing something called using a passphrase. Passwords are hard because they're complex. You cannot remember all the special characters, numbers, and such. So what I'm suggesting is you take the word from a song, such as the Mumford & Sons song, I Don't Even Know If I Believe. Put some numbers in, symbols in, and you'll have a good passphrase. You also might want to talk about using something called a password safe, which actually will create passwords for you and store them, and you only need to log into the safe, something that can make things much safer for you online. Tip number 2, keep up to date. Most people do not think to do this, but keeping your applications up to date is probably one of the most important things you can do. Far more important than even running antivirus or something like that. So if you get a security update or another update for your software, make sure that you install it. Tip number 3, use protection. No, there is no such thing as an eye condom. So whoever made the poster, I don't know. But the idea is that you use layers of security. You want an antivirus. You want to make sure your firewall's on. And don't overlook the mobile devices. Jen's already talked about the things you can do to keep those safe. Probably the number 4 tip here is recognize phishing and scams. If you all will do this, and we normally have about 25, 30 people fall for every phishing attempt that comes in, just don't give up your password if you get an email asking for it. It's really, really basic. Tip number 5, use social networks safely. Some of you probably have 800 or 900 really close friends on Facebook. So do you really want to post about your vacation plans? Yes, it's rare, but people do monitor that, and there have been break-ins as a result. Again, look for phishing on social networking sites. Privacy. You don't want people seeing the things that you don't want them to see. So watch out on Facebook, watch out even on Snapchat or anything else, watching for phishing attempts. Tip number 6, remember who else is there. Mike quoted 95% of employers will Google you to see what information they can find out. You've got a lot of identity thieves out there, and there are some online predators, though I think the numbers are fairly low on that. It's supposed to be like 1 out of 7 people are approached, which is not good if you're the one approached. Again, you heard this before, but don't post inappropriate photos. People will judge you. Unless you're looking for a job where your job is smashing beer cans on your head, you probably don't want to post this photo on Facebook. It's supposed to be funny. Come on, laugh, please. Tip number 7, be wary of others. You really don't know if this is some attractive 22-year-old who's contacting you on Facebook to be a friend, or if it's some creepy 40 or 50-something who really wants to get to know you. So make sure you know who it is that's actually trying to connect with you. Tip number 8, this is something different. Search for your name. You can use Google Dashboard to set up an alert. You can have it notify you daily every time your name, your email address, anything like that appears online. So it's a good way to monitor if somebody's talking about you or if your information is appearing somewhere and you just don't know it. Tip number 9, guard your personal information. Now, maybe you want a watchdog like this guarding your personal information. Probably not. He's a little odd. But think about what information you provide. Don't just give information just because Facebook or Twitter or somebody else asks your hometown or something like that. Tip number 10, don't assume privacy. You pretty much have to assume that anything you put online is going to become public at some point. There are changes in security settings, changes in privacy settings, and almost every time you hear about things getting exposed, photos and such and that. Other thing is that you're going to be the ones that notice if something's going wrong. You're probably not going to get a notification, but if your computer's running slowly, you're getting odd communications, it's time to run a scan, contact ResNet, get help, preferably from somebody who knows what they're doing. So my main thing here is practice digital self-defense. Welcome to RIT. I hope you all have a great 4, 5, 6 years here, and thank you.
All right, so we made it through the session today. Let's give another round of applause for our panelists, shall we? So now we have a little bit of time for Q&A, so if anybody has any questions, there's 2 mics set up in the front. Maybe we could turn the lights on. There we go. Any questions for our panelists? I see one, there we go.
Have any of you actually listened to Midnight Memories? It's not as bad as you think. It could be much worse, okay? Just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, slightly more serious question. How do VPNs work on the network here? Are they not allowed at all?
You're not asking about RIT's VPN service, right?
No, I'm like if you have your own. If you have your own VPN that you use or whatever.
I'm not aware of any policies against that. I think it would be, I can research that for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody? There we go.
What's the policy on YouTube-MP3?
Could you repeat the question?
Like, what's the policy with YouTube-MP3 where you download like a song off of YouTube?
And any software that would violate the website's policies would probably be not something that you're allowed to do. So, I mean,
But you haven't heard of it, have you?
We're actually having a very hard time hearing you because the sound's all going the other way.
Oh. Okay, thanks.
Plus, we might not have an answer, and that's a good way to get to the next person.
Hello. I have just one question regarding using torrents for open source software. For example, have you heard of the Ubuntu project, which is a very common distribution of Linux? I typically download my releases through a torrent. Is that perfectly allowed because it's not an illegal file share?
Yeah, it's no prohibition against using torrent. It's really a question of, it's like a lot of tools. It's what you use it for. You're using it for a legitimate purpose. You're not going to get contacted about a settlement. Yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to remind people to be careful with the sort of information they gave Google as well and other search engines. As if you use all their apps, you're just feeding them a lot of information. So just something to keep in mind. So, yeah, thank you.
I probably should say at this point, one of the things I say to all my students is we're going to be living on a planet called Google probably by the time you graduate, so just deal with it.
Well, they did rename a city Google after all. My question is more so with port forwarding and server hosting. Is there actually a method for us to, let's say, host a server for video games, or we'd have to go through the ITS, or is there just a form we can fill out to say to this desktop address for this port so that people can come on and use that server?
I'm not the best representative for the dorm side, so you'd want to check with ResNet. I'm not aware of any policy off the top of my head that's against that, as long as it's not interfering with other devices on the network.
Okay. A great place to look is RIT's Reddit page.
Okay.
If you post those sort of questions, they're really good.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you recommend the use of the free software Ghostery if you're aware of it? No?
We couldn't hear you. What the free software title was called?
Ghostery. Ghost, E-R-Y.
Yeah, I do use that. I'm not sure I necessarily would wholeheartedly tell everyone to go out and use it, but I do use it. It can be very effective if you configure it properly.
Yeah, I personally use it for the defense against like old tracking apps, completely blocks Google, Facebook, all that for anyone behind me who's concerned about Google and Facebook because they store absolutely everything on you. It's only text files, they can store everything. It's just free, ghostery.com.
Thank you.
Do you guys have guides anywhere as to like to secure your computer more anywhere on like the ITS website or anything like that?
Thank you for asking. www.rit.edu/security. Those of you who came through on move-in day, we had a number of brochures. We have a lot of information on best practices to keep yourself safer, not safe.
I had a question regarding proxies. For example, if you're seating, will you be held liable for anything that someone else does, since you're using, I'm sure you're familiar with seating, where their traffic is going through your computer.
So what are you asking?
I'm asking if you'll...
I mean, are you asking about, because you said about using proxies. Are you asking whether it's possible to track you if you're using a proxy?
I'm asking if you'll be held liable for anything anyone else does, since their traffic will be going through your computer.
You know, it's a little tricky because you're going to be the first one approached to explain what happened if it came from your computer. And several years ago, there was a student who thought it would be clever to use somebody else's computer to do a death threat to the president. And we did have FBI, our Secret Service agents on campus the next day, questioning the owner of the computer, even though somebody else had actually given the threat. So the answer is, yeah, they probably will, but the main thing is, the real thing is, be careful about letting other people use your computers. You don't know what they're going to do with them.
At some point, you might have to make the argument as to whether or not you were aware of what they were doing. And so you just got to make sure, is that the level of risk that you want to take?
Hi, my question is, since I'm an international student and where I come from, there are no laws against piracy there, and I have torrented movies and TV shows from there. Would I be held liable if I use these movies or TV shows here in America?
Maybe.
I haven't torrented anything from America, but I've done it in my home country where there are no laws against it.
Yeah, so
Would
I
I
think
still be held liable?
So I think the question is, yes, you're subject to laws here. Whether anybody would come after you in terms of recording industry of America or anything like that, if you brought it in from somewhere else, I doubt it. If it's not illegal there and the companies are housed there, probably not. If they're US companies and you just happen to get the music overseas and where it was free, or at least it wasn't regulated, and you bring it here, I think there's a good chance that you could get caught with it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a gaming device, and to log on to the internet, unlike logging on a computer, you need a security key. So you need a password only. There's no username login. Would it be possible to get a security key to log on to the RIT internet as opposed to just using to not? I'm sorry.
Right. So I would definitely recommend you talk with ResNet. They can assist you with any of those on the dorm side, connecting to the network. I'm sure they've already done it a billion times with a number of different gaming consoles. So unless you have something quite rare, they'll be able to help you out.
Thank you.
So I had a question about the safety of using the wireless network around campus and in the dorms for sensitive things like purchasing textbooks on the internet, banking, things like that. Could I do that on the Wi-Fi, or should I try and find like a computer to do that at?
Well, even if you mean a hardwired computer.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're on WPA2, it's encrypted, and it's encrypted as good as anything that you can do at this point. Your other option is you could always use a cellular network if you're using a smartphone or something to do the banking, but there are not any real issues in terms of doing that. I would certainly do that here and have done that.
All right, thank you.
I have a wireless printer, and I've been trying to get it to work, but I've been told that I probably shouldn't use the Wi-Fi because other people can access it from my dorm. Is there any way you can lock a wireless printer, so you need like a password to use it or stuff like that?
Yeah, it's another ResNet question. A lot of times the wireless printers can interfere with RIT's wireless, so they're going to ask you to either network jack it so that it's wired in. It can also then protect you from other people connecting to it because it's wired and not wireless.
Okay.
But definitely talk with ResNet. They can help you work through some issues.
Okay, thank you.
Is the ISO zone considered safe? Oh. Is the ISO zone considered safe?
I'm not sure what you mean. I can't. In other words, we're not omniscient. So can you explain it a little bit?
It's where you can find ROMs, international games, and pretty much anything having to do with game consoles. But the thing is,
I would say, honestly, I don't know about that specifically. Again, if you're going to use it, the key is making sure you've kept your hardware, your software up to date, have the right kind of protections in place. That tends to be the big deal. Any legitimate website, there can be hijacks or malicious software placed on there. So it's really going to be a case of what are you going to do to make sure it's safe.
all right.
Nothing is really safe out there.
Oh, okay.
I have a question about, let's say we're working on a project that involves like web hosting through some sort of embedded system. Like, what if we accidentally set the IP address or the MAC address to a certain value that collides with your guys' server? Is there like some sort of like protocol for that we can follow?
So you're saying you statically assign an IP address and it conflicts with another on campus?
Yeah, by mistake or something, because there are a lot of common MAC
The
addresses.
network team will come find you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to be, yeah, you want to work, if you need to statically assign an IP, because we use DHCP for the majority of student machines, there's very few that are static. So if you're statically assigning an RIT registered IP address, you're probably doing it wrong. So talk with ResNet, they can help you set it up.
Okay. Thank you.
To what extent do you and can you monitor what we do on the wireless networks here? Like posting, et cetera, et cetera.
So you mean the 400 people in that dark building way over there that sit around doing nothing but monitoring this stuff? You didn't know about them? I'm kidding.
Don't go.
No, we're not done yet.
No, we're not done. Honestly, we don't have the staff or the time to monitor everything that everybody is doing on campus. There are around 30,000 computer accounts, and there's no way that somebody could just easily even parse the logs and go through and see what's happening. So as Joe talked about with RIAA and MPAA, we're not monitoring you. They're finding out about it. They're sending the notices to an IP address. ITS is looking up that IP address and then forwarding it on to you. So we're not actively monitoring it. Is there a reason we should?
Well, I meant more like blog posts, et cetera, stuff like that.
No. You're good.
I have a question. What would you consider the best security software for like your PC or like your computer?
There are any number of good systems out there. If you look at the ratings from year to year, it fluctuates. So if we told you Kaspersky's the best thing this year, it might not be next year. The main thing is get a common one. Don't invent something or find something that nobody else is using, and make sure you're keeping it up to date, especially the signature files, so that it will identify most of the malware. So no, I'm not going to tell you which is better. McAfee is provided for free to the students. You're welcome to use that, but you're also welcome to use anything you'd like. AVG is good. Avast. Yeah, I use Avast at home. There are plenty of options.
Thanks.
It can be hard on certain video sharing sites like YouTube to tell if the video was uploaded by the original content creator. If we're not sure if it was uploaded by the copyright holder, is there an issue?
Maybe. No, I mean, a lot of times it's not about whether or not, you're usually not going to be ever sent anything for you grabbing something or streaming something. It's when you have something on your own machine and you're providing it to someone else. If you're not sure, don't share it.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's really that's the best advice I can give you.
So I have a Chromecast and I have like a wireless printer, and I was wondering if I were to go to the store and buy a router, would I be allowed to set it up in my room, or is that against policy?
A wireless router, yeah, that would most likely interfere with the RIT's wireless, so that would be definitely an issue.
There's no way we could set one up?
No. It's going to cause problems. Eventually, network's going to come knocking at your door.
Hey, I'm sorry, this is just a comment. I am a content creator on YouTube. I know what I'm talking about. So, any questions in regards to YouTube-MP3, don't do it. Any questions in regards to original content, also don't do it. we are monetized by companies that are owned by people that will screw you over for doing it. I would know. One of my best friends was fined like $1,000 for one of my videos, and I had no say in it. We don't own our content. Original content creators, Video Game Donkey, anybody like that, are owned by really, really, really angry people. Don't even think about doing that. So YouTube-MP3, KH Insider for music, it's illegal. There was a question about like ROMs and ISOs, illegal. It's just if you're downloading something that isn't through anything that's verified, Steam is verified, Origin is verified, ISOZone, Cool ROM, none of it's verified. It's illegal, and you can and may or may not get screwed over because of it. So please, you guys are here for a reason. You're smart. Don't screw yourselves over, because there are a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter than you. If you guys have any questions about like YouTube, you can come to me. I'm over there in the corner, like later on. But any like questions in regards to like YouTube, I can answer. So I'll be in the corner.
Thank you.
So it looks like there are not any more questions at this point. I'd like to thank you all for attending. Those of you who drifted off during the questions, please wake up and enjoy your stay at RIT.
Hello, hello. Does this work? Good afternoon, freshman class of 2015. My name is Justin Schoenfeld. I'm currently a fourth-year computing security student in the Golisano College of Computing and Information Sciences, and also an associate information security engineer in the Information Security Office here at RIT. If you couldn't tell already, I'll be your host for this afternoon's session on digital self-defense. Today, we have 4 panelists who will be talking to you about staying safe online and keeping your identity safe from hackers and identity thieves. So, our 4 lovely panelists today will be, is this working? Ben Woelk, our program manager in the Information Security Office. We have Jennifer Gates, the Senior PC Systems Administrator in ITS, or Information Technology Services at RIT. Also, Mike Johansson, Senior Lecturer in Communication, School of Communication. And also, Joe Johnson, Chief Conduct Officer at RIT. Now, we like to keep things interesting for this session, so we make all of our presenters do what we like to call a lightning talk. Basically, our presenters will have 18 seconds for each of their 20 slides. If you do the math, that comes out to be about 6 minutes per presenter. So to give you a taste of what 18 seconds feels like, we have a timer going down for 18 seconds. So some of our presenters here have never done this type of talk before, so you might see some sweat dripping down their faces. And there we go. So our first presenter of the evening, or afternoon, is going to be Mike Johansson.
Start with things to think about. Privacy settings. You're all on Facebook, I'm sure. You're probably on Snapchat, Instagram, maybe Twitter, a few other places. When was the last time you checked your privacy settings? If you haven't done it lately, at the very least on Facebook, you should go in there and check to see who's seeing what you post every time you post. Another thing to think about is your email address. You probably have multiple email addresses, and you get a pretty cool rit.edu address for coming here. But you need to have a professional address that will last beyond RIT for when you're applying for jobs and co-ops. This kind of address won't help you get a job. So what's significant about 95%? Is it a really good grade? Students who are changing majors? Employers searching for candidates? All of the above. The correct answer is C. 95% of employers are searching for candidates. It'll be 100% by the time you graduate. What will they find? So you need to think about what your digital footprint looks like. Every time you post something online, you're leaving some digital dirt. What's that going to look like to an employer when they search for you in the future? You need to be conscious of what you're posting. I know you've heard this before, but now this is serious. You're going to graduate in 4 years. Another thing to do is to claim your digital terrain. You need to think about every presence that you can possibly have online, and you want to make sure they're positive presences. You want to make sure that you have information there that is everything that's positive about you. 3 steps. Master LinkedIn first. You might have heard of LinkedIn. It is the #1 social professional network site. You want to start one now. If you don't have one, it'll be pretty thin to start with, but 3 years from now, when you're thinking about graduating, you'll be glad you did. And your experiences here can build up your LinkedIn profile. You also want to own your own domain name, yourname.com, or a version of yourname.com, because if you don't, someone else will. And it's important, again, when people search for you, that they find you, not someone else with the same name. There are plenty of tools out there to help you do this. Claim your social profiles. There's a ton of social networks out there, but the 10 or 12 biggest ones, you should... How y'all doing? Good. Can you hear me? Good. We'll just wait for the slides here. I'm Mike Johansson. I teach in the School of Communication here at RIT. And while the slides are coming up, I teach advertising, public relations, and social media. And outside of RIT, I help businesses with social media. Today, I'm here to talk to you about your online presence. Before you can stay safe online, you want to make sure that everything that is online is as good as it can be about you. So let me tell you about a guy called Pete Kissler. He graduated from Syracuse University 3 years ago and was wondering why he was not getting any replies to his applications for jobs. Then he Googled himself and found there's a Pete Kissler who was a drug dealer. So when people were searching for him, they were finding a drug dealer. That's a problem. So it's not just your name that can get you in trouble, of course, online. It can be photos, unflattering photographs, unprofessional photographs, photographs that show you in an unflattering light. There's a lot of stuff that can make you look bad online. And it's important that you're aware that this stuff is out there, whether you put it there or not. So